The planet Kiros 9 was not built for war. It was a green and silver world, filled with wide oceans, mountain chains, and glittering cities where dozens of alien species lived together. For centuries, it had been a place of trade, peace, and cooperation. Children played in open plazas, traders sold spices and gems from across the stars, and scientists built tall towers of glass that touched the clouds. Kiros 9 was called the heart of the free worlds. But now, it was a target. High above the world skies, the Valari Dominion gathered its fleets. The Valari were not traders, nor scientists, nor builders. They were conquerors. Their ships were sharp and black like blades, and their empire stretched across hundreds of systems. For centuries, they had crushed any who opposed them. The Valari believed they were born to rule the stars, and so far nothing had proved them wrong. In the city of Halen Prime, deep within a military command bunker, General Urok stood over a holographic table. His broad shoulders sagged, his tusked mouth pressed into a grim line. He was a veteran of too many battles, and the scars across his scaled face told the story of survival where others had fallen. Around him, alien officers of different shapes and sizes spoke in tense voices. A feathered Kalori tactician squawked out casualty numbers. A six-armed Druvan engineer rattled about failing shield generators. A small amphibian clerk wept openly as he read reports of cities burning across the planet. General Urok slammed a fist onto the table. Enough. We know the truth already. The Valari will break through our defenses. We cannot hold them. The room fell into silence. No one argued, because no one could. A young officer, her eyes wide with fear, whispered, the thought that haunted them all. Has anyone answered our call? Her words hung in the air. Every officer looked down, ashamed. They had sent out distress signals for weeks, across every frequency, every channel, begging for help. They had pleaded with the remnants of the Yaur coalition of minor species, begged the neutral powers, even cried out toward the mysterious human homeworld. But the galaxy was silent. General Urok finally spoke, his voice heavy. No one is coming. Far above, in orbit, the truth was made clear. The last planetary shield generator flickered like a dying flame. Enemy warships rained down bombardments of plasma fire, turning once bright cities into seas of ash. From the eye, orbital platforms, defenders fought back with cannons and missiles, but their numbers were few. In one hangar, Lieutenant Sarah Valen, a young pilot with silver skin and determined eyes, prepared her battered starfighter. She looked across the bay at her fellow pilots, each strapping into machines held together by little more than hope and rust. This is suicide, one muttered. We fight anyway, Sarah replied sharply. She had grown up on Kiros 9. She had walked those bright plazas as a child, laughed in the crystal gardens, and dreamed of flying among the stars. Now, all she dreamed of was protecting her people, even if it meant never coming home. The pilots launched into the sky, their ships streaking upward like sparks against the darkness. But the darkness was endless. The Valari fleet descended like a storm. Massive Warbringer-class dreadnoughts, each the size of a small moon, blotted out the stars. Cruisers and destroyers moved in tight formations, their black hulls glimmering with cruel red light. On the Valari flagship, Overlord Karath, the commander of the invasion, stood upon his throne. His body was armored with living metal that moved with his skin, and his four burning eyes scanned the battlefield with cold satisfaction. These free worlds are weak, he said, his voice echoing through the command chamber. They thought their unity could save them. They thought their cries for help would be answered, but they do not understand the truth. He leaned forward, his mouth curling into a sneer. No one is coming. His officers laughed, a harsh, metallic sound. Back on the surface, panic spread through Kiros 9. Civilians crowded into shelters, carrying what little they could. Families clung together as the sky above turned red from orbital fire. In one shelter, a small child asked her mother, "Will the humans come? Teacher said they are strong." The mother had no answer. Humans were a mystery. The coalition had spoken of them as a strange species from the edge of the galaxy. They had fought terrible wars in their past and then gone silent. For decades, Earth had sent no diplomats, no fleets, no colonies. Some said they had destroyed themselves. Others said they were hiding, watching, waiting. But to the people of Kairos 9, those were only stories. General Urok stood once more on the walls of the capital, watching as the sky split with fire. His soldiers around him were tired, their weapons overheating, their armor cracked. Still they stood. He raised his voice so all could hear. "Brothers, sisters, today we fight not for victory but for honor. We will not kneel to the Valari. We will not surrender. If this is our last day, then let it be remembered that we died standing." A ragged cheer rose from the defenders, though it was filled with despair as much as courage. Above, the Valari dreadnoughts aligned their main cannons. The ground shook as the first blasts lanced downward, ripping apart entire districts. The final shield collapsed. General Urok closed his eyes. "It is the end," he whispered. But far beyond Kairos 9, in the blackness of deep space, something stirred. In the silent void, hidden from the galaxy for decades, vast shapes began to move. Engines of a forgotten fleet, silent for too long, roared to life. Signals spread across encrypted networks, orders relayed in voices steady and cold. The sky above Kairos 9 burned red. Valari warships rained fire upon the planet, and the defenders struggled to hold what little ground remained. General Urok stood in the command center, his tusked mouth set in a hard line. Reports of death and destruction poured in. Entire districts gone, cities swallowed by flames, and resistance forces scattered. The coalition's armies had fought bravely, but the truth was clear. Kairos 9 was dying. Even so, no help had come. Urok gripped the edge of the holographic table. His claws dug into the metal. "We sent our calls to every star," he growled. "The silence answers us louder than words. We are alone." The officers around him lowered their heads. But then, something strange happened. The communications officer, a nervous young amphibian named Caro, suddenly lifted his head. "General, I'm picking up a transmission, not Valari. Not Coalition either." Urok turned sharply. "Play it." The room filled with static. For a long moment there was nothing but broken sound. Then, through the crackle came a calm, steady voice. "Stand fast. Help is coming." Every officer froze. The voice was strange, rough. The words carried an accent none of them recognized, but there was power in it. It was the voice of a commander, not a desperate refugee. "Who is this?" Urok barked. "Identify yourself." No answer came. The transmission faded as quickly as it had appeared. The officers looked at one another in disbelief. "Was it a trick?" one asked. "A false signal?" another suggested. But deep down, in the silence that followed, hope flickered in their eyes. Across the battlefield, soldiers heard the same broadcast. In shelters, families paused their crying. In starfighter cockpits, pilots looked at one another with wide eyes. "Did you hear that?" Lieutenant Sarah Valen asked, her voice tight with shock. Her wingmate, bleeding from a cut on his forehead, gave a shaky laugh. Sounded human. Sarah's breath caught. Human. She remembered the old stories. When she was a child, her teacher had spoken of humanity. A strange, dangerous race from the distant spiral arm. A people who fought endless wars among themselves, until they learned unity the hard way. Then, they had vanished from the galactic stage. No colonies. No ambassadors. No fleets. Some say they destroyed themselves, the teacher had said. Others say they are building something in the dark. But no one had ever seen proof. Until now. In orbit, the Valari commanders also heard the transmission. On the flagship, Overlord Kareth leaned forward in his throne, his 4 eyes narrowing. "Replay it," he ordered. The human voice echoed again. "Stand fast. Help is coming." Kareth's officers shifted uneasily. The Valari were arrogant, but they were not fools. The tone of that voice was not one of desperation. It was not the voice of a dying world. It was the voice of someone with power, Kareth growled. A human trick, nothing more. Still, he gave an order. Double the scans. If Earth dares to rise, I will crush them myself. Back on Kiros 9, whispers spread faster than fire. Civilians in shelters leaned close, whispering to one another. Did you hear it? They said help is coming. They said stand fast. Could it be the humans? Soldiers in the trenches repeated the words like a prayer. But General Urok was not so easily convinced. He gathered his officers. We cannot trust ghosts, he said. Until we see ships in the sky, we are still alone. Prepare for the Valari's next assault. Still, when he returned to the command center, his claws did not grip the table as tightly. For the first time in days, a small part of him dared to hope. Far from Kiros 9, hidden in the silent reaches of deep space, the truth unfolded. The Terran, Armada was awakening. For decades, Earth had watched the galaxy. Quiet, hidden, they had studied every empire, every war, every mistake. They had seen the Valari's cruelty. They had seen the Coalition's weakness. And they had decided, when the time came, humanity would not ask permission. They would act. Now, that time had come. On the bridge of the supercarrier Atlas, Admiral Elias Grant stood tall, his gray uniform crisp, his eyes sharp as steel. Before him stretched the greatest fleet Earth had ever built, rows upon rows of dreadnoughts, carriers, cruisers, and frigates, all bristling with weapons. Thousands of human soldiers filled the ships, their faces calm, their hearts ready. Grant turned to his officers. Signal the fleet. We set course for Kiros 9. A young lieutenant hesitated. Sir, if we move now, the galaxy will know. Earth's silence will be broken forever. Grant nodded. Then let the galaxy know. We've been silent long enough. The fleet engines roared to life. Back on Kiros 9, the Valari launched their next attack. In the skies, Sarah Valen and her squadron fought desperately against superior numbers. Her starfighter shuddered as enemy fire grazed its wing. Her wingmate screamed as his ship went down in flames. Sarah, fall back, the command tower ordered. I can't, she snapped, pulling her controls hard. If we retreat, the capital burns. Her fighter dived into a formation of Valari ships, missiles streaking from its underbelly. One destroyer exploded, but 3 more closed in on her. Her hands tightened on the controls. This is it. Then, all across the system, alarms went off. The Valari fleet scanners detected something, huge warp signatures, hundreds of them appearing at the edge of the star system. On the Valari flagship, panic spread. Massive fleet incoming, an officer shouted. Identify, Karath roared. The officer's voice cracked. Human. In the command bunker on Kiros 9, Caro's voice trembled as he shouted over the comms. General, we're picking up. Hundreds of warp gates opening in system. It's them. It's humans. Every head turned toward the sky. Soldiers dropped their weapons in shock. Civilians poured out of shelters to see for themselves. The night sky lit up as hundreds of burning wormholes ripped open across the darkness. From them, vast shapes emerged. Warships of steel and fire bristling with weapons beyond imagination. The Terran Armada had arrived. But in this first moment, before the battle began, no one on Kiros 9 knew if the humans had come as saviors or conquerors. General Urok stood on the wall, staring at the sky, his chest heavy with fear and hope. The Valari warships shifted uneasily. The Dominion had ruled the galaxy with no rivals for centuries. Now, for the first time, they hesitated. Then, a single transmission echoed across every channel in every language. It was the same voice as before, calm, strong, undeniable. This is the Terran Armada, the voice said. Stand fast. You are not alone. The word spread across the world like fire and dry grass. Soldiers cheered, civilians wept. Even the most hardened warriors felt their hearts surge. The horizon of Kiros 9 changed forever that night. What had once been a sky of fire and smoke now became a stage for the unimaginable. Hundreds of ships emerged from the wormholes, stretching farther than the eye could see. Their metal hulls gleamed under the red glow of burning cities. Lights flickered along their sides in precise patterns, signaling order, discipline, and deadly purpose. Civilians stared upward, mouths open in awe. Soldiers dropped to their knees, some whispering prayers, others simply staring. Lieutenant Sarah Valen hovered her fighter near the shattered remnants of her squadron. Her hands were shaking, not from fear, but from disbelief. She had seen war before. She had seen worlds fall. She had never seen anything like this. The ships were enormous. Massive dreadnoughts with heavy turrets, carriers bristling with fighters, and long, sleek strike frigates that cut through space like arrows. The Terran Armada had arrived, and it was far larger, far more terrifying than the stories had ever suggested. General Urok felt his tusked jaw tighten. He had fought many wars in his long life, but even he could not hide the awe creeping over him. The humans, the mysterious humans of legend, had not come as a trick. They had come as an unstoppable force. In the command center, officers struggled to comprehend the scale. "Admiral," Caro said, pointing at the sensors, They have more ships than we have ever seen. Hundreds, maybe thousands. Their weapons are beyond comprehension," Urok finished. For the first time, the Valari fleet felt tension. Their scanners had picked up the approaching human fleet minutes ago, but nothing could prepare them for the sheer scale. Overlord Karath leaned forward in his throne. His four eyes burned like coals, scanning the sky. "What is this?" he hissed. How could a single species amass this power without our knowledge?" one officer stammered. "We underestimated them, Overlord." Karath's mouth twisted into a snarl. "Never underestimate humans. Prepare the fleet. Destroy them." But even as he gave the order, the Valari hesitated. Their experience told them humans were dangerous, but no one had ever faced such numbers. On the ground, the citizens of Kairos 9 watched as massive human warships descended into orbit, deploying squadrons of fighters and drones. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest as she followed a fleet of strike fighters weaving past Valari destroyers, their movements precise and coordinated. "They're perfect," she whispered. Her wingmate, a veteran pilot whose ship was already patched with makeshift armor, gave a grim laugh. "No, not perfect. Terrifying." Above them, the first human dreadnought released a salvo of kinetic spears. These were weapons designed to punch through the toughest armor. A Valari destroyer tried to evade, but one strike tore through its shields, sending it spinning in a storm of fire and debris. The sound of explosions echoed across the planet. Though Kairos 9's residents had never heard anything like it. The fires of war seemed to burn brighter, but now there was a new rhythm: hope. General Urok stood on the command balcony overlooking the city. Beside him, Commander Ralvik, a Clory officer, could barely contain his shock. They've come for us," Ralvik said. Urok nodded, his jaw tight. "And they will not stop until the Valari are defeated." The Valari fleet responded with fire. Hundreds of ships swarmed toward the human armada, firing beams, missiles, and plasma clouds. But humanity moved with precision. The dreadnoughts formed layered defensive grids. Fighters darted between firestorms, and missile swarms were intercepted mid-flight by automated defense drones. Even the Valari could not ignore the strategy. Their attacks, once overwhelming, were met with careful counters. One destroyer attempted to flank the humans, only to be crushed by a combined barrage from 3 carriers and 2 frigates. Karath's eyes blazed in fury. They are not just strong. They are smart. They fight as one, destroy every vessel, leave none alive. But the Valari were beginning to falter. One by one, ships were torn apart, leaving trails of fire in the darkness. The humans did not hesitate, did not falter. Each strike was calculated, precise, and deadly. On Kairos 9, civilians watched the sky change again. Where the Valari had once seemed unstoppable, now streaks of fire and explosions told a different story. Families wept, hugging each other as Smoke rose around them. Sarah maneuvered her fighter through the chaos, picking off Valari bombers that had slipped past the planetary defenses. Her squadron was small, but with humans arriving, she felt strength she had never known before. "They're with us," she whispered. "We're not alone." In orbit, Admiral Grant stood on the bridge of the Atlas, watching the battlefield unfold on the holographic display. His officers fed him real-time data from thousands of ships. "Enemy formations breaking," reported the tactical officer. "Multiple destroyers down. Their main fleet is retreating." Grant nodded. His expression was calm, almost cold. "Keep pressure, do not let them regroup, push them back." He turned to his communications officer. "Open a channel to the coalition forces on Kairos 9. Tell them, hold your ground. Humans are here." A moment later, a voice crackled through the system. General Urok's voice, filled with disbelief and relief, answered, "They've arrived. I can't believe it. The humans—" Grant nodded to himself. "They will not fail you. Stand fast." Back on the surface, Valari soldiers panicked as human drones and strike fighters cut through their ranks. Many had never seen enemies so organized, so relentless, and so willing to sacrifice for one another. In one battle over a burning city, a Valari cruiser attempted to fire on retreating civilians. 2 human frigates appeared out of nowhere, tearing the cruiser apart before it could even complete its attack. The citizens below screamed in shock and joy, some crying in disbelief. Even the Valari ground troops felt fear creeping into their hearts. Their overlord's commands now seemed less certain. Across the battlefield, rumors spread. Humans were here, and they were unstoppable. As the night wore on, the full scale of the Terran Armada became clear. From every wormhole, fleets poured through, each perfectly organized, each strike precise. Valari dreadnoughts that had once terrified the galaxy now fell to human firepower. The sky burned with explosions, yet a new pattern emerged. Hope. The Valari could conquer worlds, but they could not conquer humanity. In the command center, General Urok stood silently watching the war unfold. His scales reflected the red glow of explosions as tears filled his eyes. "They've come," he whispered. They have come for us." The Valari fleet had never faced anything like this. Across the skies of Kairos 9 and the void above, the Terran Armada moved like a single, unstoppable machine. Every ship had a role. Every strike was calculated. Every human fighter, dreadnought, and frigate moved in perfect coordination. On the planet's surface, civilians stared in disbelief. Where once the enemy had rained death, now human firepower tore Valari ships from orbit. General Urok stood on the command balcony of Helen Prime. His tusks gleamed in the red glow of destruction. Around him, officers shouted orders, coordinating planetary defenses with human forces above. "They're cutting through the Valari like blades through silk," said Commander Ralvik, the Kalori officer, his feathers bristling with excitement. Urok nodded. "We always hoped the humans would come. I never thought this." His voice trailed into awe. Above them, the battle raged. The Valari tried every tactic they had used to conquer the galaxy. Massive coordinated strikes, swarming fighters, devastating plasma beams. But humanity met each attack with something unexpected. Dreadnoughts fired kinetic spears, tearing apart enemy shields before they could even raise them. Swarms of autonomous drones intercepted missiles mid-flight, and human fighters wove through the chaos with deadly precision. Even the Valari commanders began to falter. Overlord Kareth roared from his flagship, his 4 eyes burning with fury. "Destroy them, I do not care at what cost." A lieutenant hesitated. "Overlord, we cannot. Their fleet is too coordinated." Kareth's claws struck the console. Sparks flew, then died trying. On the planet, Sarah Valen and her squadron pushed forward, their starfighters weaving through explosions and debris. She fired on Valari bombers attempting to strike civilian zones. Each hit was precise, each maneuver calculated. Behind her, human reinforcements from orbit deployed, descending in drop pods, landing on strategic positions to take out remaining Valari ground forces. "It's like they planned this before we even called for help," Sarah whispered to her wingmate. Her wingmate shook his head, a grin breaking across his face. No. They did plan it. They've been waiting for this. In orbit, Admiral Grant watched the tactical display on the bridge of the supercarrier Atlas. Ships of the Volari flagship fleet were being destroyed one by one. Target the Overlord's flagship, he ordered. We end this today. A strike. Group assembled, their engines flaring as they moved in unison. Human fighters darted around like hunting falcons, guiding missile swarms toward the massive Volari flagship. Sir, said a tactical officer, they've deployed countermeasures. Their shields are stronger than we anticipated. Grant's eyes narrowed. Then we hit harder, precision, focus, fire everything we have. Let the galaxy see what humanity can do. Below, the Volari forces were collapsing. Soldiers who had once fought with pride now scrambled for survival. Commanders bellowed orders, but the humans adapted faster than they could. Every attack the Volari tried was met with a counter. Every ground assault was met with reinforcements from orbit. A massive Volari cruiser attempted to fire on the human supercarrier, but dreadnoughts from the Armada intercepted it. Explosions rocked space. The cruiser shattered into fragments, each piece igniting in fire. Kareth's rage boiled over. No, this cannot be. Humans are impossible. On Kairos 9's surface, civilians now watched as humans fought alongside their defenders. Families huddled in shelters, peering through broken walls as human strike teams cleared Volari squads from the streets. Children whispered prayers not for salvation, but in awe of what humans could do. General Urok walked among them, giving orders and encouragement. He paused when he saw a group of humans helping a family escape a burning building. They were strong, disciplined, and fearless, yet there was care in their eyes. They fight like us, Urok said softly to Ralvik, but they are more than us. Ralvik nodded. They are humanity. And today, they are gods. Above, the battle reached its peak. The Volari Overlord's flagship, massive and dark, floated at the center of the chaos. Its weapons unleashed, torrents of plasma fire, tearing apart everything in sight. But the humans did not flinch. Strike teams navigated through the debris, drones pierced shields, and the dreadnoughts concentrated their fire. A single coordinated strike struck the Overlord's ship directly. Massive explosions tore through the hull. Alarms blared. The Overlord's massive craft began to break apart, its shields failing under relentless human fire. Kareth screamed in fury and disbelief. Impossible. We are the Volari. We cannot be beaten. In the command center of the Atlas, Admiral Grant watched the destruction unfold. Deploy the boarding teams, he said quietly. Take what remains. Human boarding ships shot toward the crippled Volari flagship. Soldiers in advanced exosuits breached the enemy hull, cutting through corridors, disabling weapons, and capturing strategic points. The Volari were seasoned warriors, but they were outnumbered, outsmarted, and exhausted. Finally, the Overlord's central bridge was breached. Karath's four eyes met the humans as they captured him. He slumped to the ground, defeated and humiliated. The battle was over. On the planet, the people of Kairos 9 erupted into celebration. Civilians flooded the streets, cheering, crying, and hugging soldiers who had survived. Smoke still rose from the cities, but the war had turned. The Volari were broken, scattered, and retreating. Sarah Valen landed her fighter near the city center, stepping out to see human soldiers helping rebuild, tending to wounded and calming panicked civilians. They came for us, she said to herself, tears in her eyes. They really came. General Urok approached her, his tusks gleaming. Not just for you, for the galaxy. Humanity does not stand aside when others suffer. Across the skies, the remaining Volari ships withdrew, their pride shattered. They had been taught to fear no one, but now the name of Earth had spread through the galaxy like fire. The Terran Armada hovered in formation above Kairos 9. Their presence alone was enough to prevent any further attacks. Admiral Grant stood on the bridge of the Atlas, silent but proud. He knew the galaxy had witnessed something extraordinary today. Humanity had arrived. They had shown their strength, their courage, and their unwillingness to stand aside. The Valari would never forget this day, neither would the free worlds, and somewhere, in the distance, the first whispers began. The humans are here. The humans will not leave. The humans will not be ignored. Kairos 9 had survived. The coalition had hope. The galaxy had a new power to respect. The smoke was thick over Kairos 9, curling from ruined cities and burned forests. Fires still burned in scattered districts, but the screams of the dying had been replaced with cheers. The planet had survived. For the first time in decades, the Iyab people of Kairos 9 could breathe without fear. They looked up at the sky where the Terran Armada hovered, massive and silent like a wall of steel and light. The humans had done what no one else could. General Urok walked through the streets, his tusks glinting in the red glow of the fires. Soldiers, exhausted but alive, saluted as he passed. Civilians waved, cried, and hugged the humans who helped them. This is beyond anything I imagined, Urok said softly. Commander Ralvik, the Kalori officer, nodded beside him. They fight like warriors, Ralvik said. But there's something more. Discipline, unity, purpose. They do not fight for conquest. They fight for protection. Urok exhaled slowly. And yet, they inspire fear in those who oppose them. Even the Valari have learned that today. Far above the planet, the surviving Valari ships retreated. Many were shattered, their fleets broken, their commanders humiliated. The Valari overlord Karath, captured during the boarding of his flagship, was now bound in human custody. On the Atlas, Admiral Elias Grant stood tall on the bridge, calm as ever, observing the galaxy's first real taste of human power. His eyes were sharp, his expression unreadable. One of his lieutenants approached. Sir, the Valari. They are retreating. We have full control of Kairos 9's system. Grant nodded. Let them retreat. We do not chase the dead. His voice was quiet but carried weight. Our message has been sent. The lieutenant frowned. Sir? Grant gestured at the retreating fleet. The galaxy must learn respect, for humanity but not hatred. The Valari will live to remember what we are capable of. The others, they will watch and think twice before attacking free worlds again. On the surface, human soldiers worked alongside Kairos 9's defenders. They carried wounded civilians to safe zones, helped rebuild collapsed shelters, and provided food and water to those who had gone without for days. Sarah Valen walked among the humans, her eyes wide with admiration. She had fought many battles before but never seen courage so measured, so precise. She turned to one of the soldiers, a tall human with steel-gray armor. Why do you fight like this? You don't even know us. The human smiled faintly. We fight for what is right, for life, for freedom. That is enough reason. Sarah nodded slowly. These are not just warriors, they are humanity. In the command center of Kairos 9, General Urok received a message from Admiral Grant. The holographic display lit up with Grant's calm, commanding presence. General Urok, Grant said, Kairos 9 is safe. Your people are alive. Today is a day for survival, not celebration. But know this. Humanity will always be here when others cannot protect themselves. Urok bowed slightly, overwhelmed with emotion. Thank you. Your arrival. It saved countless lives. Grant's eyes softened just slightly. Do not thank us. Humanity does not seek thanks. We act because it is necessary. You and your people have fought bravely. That is your own honor. Across the planet, the civilians celebrated, but there was also mourning. Entire neighborhoods had been destroyed. Families had been lost. Kairos 9 would rebuild, but the memory of the Valari attack would never fade. Yet now, the story of the Terran Armada would become legend. Children whispered about the humans who came from the stars. Traders told tales in marketplaces about the ships that burned brighter than the sun. Soldiers spoke of the humans' discipline and unity. The humans themselves remained calm, almost silent in their triumph. They had not sought glory. They had simply done what was necessary. On the outskirts of the capital, Urok and Sarah stood, together, looking at a human landing ship touching down. A group of human soldiers emerged carrying supplies for the survivors. "They don't fight for themselves," Sarah said quietly. "They fight for others. For life." Urok nodded. "And yet, they are unstoppable when they must be. The galaxy has underestimated them for too long." In the skies above, the Terran Armada remained in orbit. Their ships gleamed under Kiros 9's twin moons, and the faint hum of their engines carried a message the galaxy would never forget. Humanity is here. Humanity will not stand aside. Humanity protects life, and anyone who threatens it will face its full power. Meanwhile, Admiral Grant observed the system from orbit, his eyes scanning the stars. The Valari were gone for now, but the galaxy was still dangerous. "Prepare the fleet for redeployment," he ordered. "There are others who need to see what humanity can do." A tactical officer raised an eyebrow. "Sir, will we continue the fight?" Grant's gaze was steady. "We do not fight for conquest. We fight so that free worlds can survive. Let that be enough." The humans were not conquerors. They were guardians. And today, the galaxy had seen a force that could not be ignored. Weeks later, the people of Kiros 9 rebuilt. Cities rose from the ashes, stronger and more organized. Survivors spoke often of the humans who had come, telling stories of bravery, unity, and strategy that had turned despair into hope. General Urok addressed the people for the first time in months. "Kiros 9 has survived because we were not alone. The humans arrived, and with them, life itself was saved. Remember this day. Remember what courage and unity can accomplish." Children ran through the streets, playing among the ruins, while adults worked to restore their homes. Humanity had given them more than protection. They had given them hope. And somewhere in the dark depths of space, the Terran Armada continued to move. Their engines glowed faintly as they set course for the next call for help, knowing the galaxy was watching. Every free world would remember this day. Every conqueror would learn the same lesson: never underestimate humanity. The galaxy had doubted them. They had said humans would hide, would stand aside, would do nothing. But humanity had come. They had arrived, and they would never leave. For life, for freedom, for the galaxy. The Armada was not just a fleet. It was a promise that wherever darkness fell, humanity would rise.